This lesson is lesson 3.7, solving percent problems. You should be on page 176. Recall that the word percent means to divide by 100. So when I hear percent, I always think of when I hear like 58%, that means to me 58 out of 100. That's what a percent is. It means out of 100. Here would be another example. 27% would mean 27 out of 100. Most of the time, my students that I've worked with are pretty good at a percentage because you use percentage all the time in school. Most of you, the first thing you wonder or figure out when you have a quiz or test is what percent did I have? How many did I get right out of 100 is what you're trying to figure out. By writing a percent as a fraction, you can use a proportion to solve a percent problem. I would say that's important because most of you, as you've learned in the last two lessons, a proportion is a pretty easy thing to solve. So they give us this key concept box which shows you how we can use a proportion to solve a percent problem. Now I'm going to highlight this. This isn't an easy read. It's an easy concept, but it's easier to show on paper than it is to read it. But I am going to highlight and read it. It says here if we have A is P% of B, you could use this proportion to solve the problem. Now, I don't think you're going to remember that, so I would write this in your notes, but trying to memorize this is going to be pointless. Here's what you do want to know. When you read these statements, you're going to see an is and an of, okay? And I had a student a couple years ago tell me this, and this is a great teaching point, and I haven't forgot it since. When you read the word is needs to go on top of your fraction. The word of, that has to go on the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to point out why that's important in a minute or what that means. So remember this as I go on and show you a couple examples. Is on top, of on the bottom, and that's going to help us set this up. Let's do a couple examples so you can see that. Okay, what percent of 20 is 15? Let's do that. I'll write it over here. Okay, what percent? Well, I don't know. I have an unknown amount, and percent means out of 100. So I have an unknown amount out of 100 equals. Now, this is where the is and of comes in. Of 20 is 15. The number one concern here, I'll underline it in red, number one concern is, well, what should I put on top? Should I put the 20 on top or the 15 on top? How in the heck am I supposed to know? This is where the is and of comes in. Can you see how it says is 15? The is goes on top, so I should put 15 on top. The of is 20. Of is on the bottom. There's the correct proportion. So all I have to do is solve it now. I can cross multiply and solve. 20x equals 1500, and I can divide by 20, and when I do that, I'm getting 75. So it must be 75% of 20 is 15, and that's correct. 75% of 20 is 15. Here's another one. What number is 30% of 90? So 30% means 30 out of 100. Okay. What number is? Is goes on top. I have an unknown amount on top. And can you see of 90? Of is on the bottom, so the 90 goes on the bottom. I'm not going to solve this, but all you have to do is cross multiply and solve, and you'll find out what the number is. So proportions should be an easy way to set these up. There is another way to solve percentage problems. It's by using what's called a percent equation. And you can see they have a little key concept box here for that also. A percent equation, again, it's not going to be easy to read. It's going to be a lot easier to show. It says You can represent A is P percent of B by using this kind of equation. You're not going to memorize that. I don't memorize it, and I wouldn't remember it anyway, and I'm sure you wouldn't either. But here's how we can set this up without memorizing. There's a couple keywords we have to know, though, before we set this up. When you have a percent equation, the word is tells you equal. Like when I say 9 plus 3 is 12, think about it. 9 plus 3 is 12 means equals 12. Is a word that means equals. And in percentage problems, when you read the word of is telling you to multiply. Okay? So let's actually do a few problems by setting up a percent equation. Keep this in mind when we do these problems. They show you a couple examples here. I want to do some of our own, so we're not just copying these. So let's go down here and try some. So ready? What percent? Well, I don't know. That's an unknown. Put X. Of, now remember on my last slide, of means times. 56 is means equal 49. Well, look at what I wrote. 56x equals 49. All right, let's divide each side by 56. Think of the onion. Let me take my calculator. I'm going to take 49 divided by 56. You can do the same. I'm doing it right now as I'm talking to you. 49 divided by 56. I get 0.875 for my answer. Now, that's not the answer to the problem, though. 0.875. They wanted a percent. This is a decimal. So maybe I should put a little red exclamation point next to this. This is I'm not done yet. I got to change this into a percent. Remember, to change a decimal to a percent, move your decimal 2 to the right. This answer to this problem would be 87.5%. You see how easy it was, though, to set up a percent equation. Let's do another one. Let's do number 5. I'll write it down over here. What number, well, heck, I don't know. I'll call it X. Is means equals 45%. Now, I can't just write 45 here. I got to change my percent to a decimal. So 45%, to change it into a decimal, I have to move my decimal 2 to the left. That would be 0.45. Of means times 92. Well, heck, that's easy. All I got to do to get my answer is take 0.45 times 92, so I'll do that. 0.45 times 92, I'm getting 41.4. So it says what number is 45% of 92? It's 41.4. That's the number. That's how you can write a percent equation. Okay? Let's do one more. Let's do number 4 up here. What percent? Well, heck, I don't know. I'll call it X. Of means times. 55 is means equals 11. Well, heck, I got 55x equals 11. That's pretty easy. Divide by 55. You put that in your calculator. You get 0.2. Now, I want a percent. This is not a percent, this is a decimal, so let me exclamation point here. Hey, that's not the answer. I got to change it into a percent. So move your decimal 2 to the right. You would get 20% for the answer to this problem. Okay? You are going to have some word problems where you'll have to do either proportions or percent equations. Let me just set up one of these. A survey asked 220 students to name their favorite pasta dish. Find the percent of students who chose the given pasta dish. Mac and cheese. I see mac and cheese were 33. Okay? So here's what I need to figure out. They want find the percent. So I need to figure out what percent of 220 is 33? That's the question I have to figure out. I have 220 students. I want to figure out what percent of that 220 is the number 33. So I can do it two ways. I could do a percent equation or a proportion. I'll just do a percent equation. What percent, I don't know, of means times, remember, 220 is means equals 33. If I solve this problem, I'll get the answer. So let me divide by 220. And 33 divided by 220, putting that in my calculator, is 0.15. Now remember, I want a percentage. This is not a percentage, so I'll put a little exclamation point by it. I got to move my decimal 2 to the right. That would be 15. So mac and cheese, there must be 15% of the students. So this number is 15% of 220. Let's do a couple more percent equations just to make sure we got it down, or at least one or two more. Let's try this number 7. 65 is means equals 62.5%. Now remember, I can't write it that way. I got to change it to a decimal, so let me move my decimal to the left. So 65 is equals 0.625 of means times what number? X. All right, I have to solve that. So if I divide each side by 0.625, let's do that. 65 divided by 0.625 is giving me 104. So the unknown number must be 104. So 65 is 62.5% of 104. Okay? I think I'm going to stop the video there. I've gone through the word problems. I've done percent equations and proportions. Those are the things on the I CAN list for this video.